And we are live. Appreciate everybody tuning back in today. I've got none other than Mr. Chip Z'Nuff here with me right now. How's it going, Chip?
It's going great. I'm over here at Stonecutter Studio down in Chicago. Everybody's recorded down here, from Fall Out Boy, Megadeth, Fast Pumpkins. All of us have got a chance to track records over here. And I'm doing something with a guy who he was in that movie called Rockstar in Excess.
Okay.
And he also has a band called they were really a popular band here in Chicago, but he's most notably known for that movie. And we're actually doing one of his songs here. Wonderful cat, by the way. And it's a movie, actually. I'm doing I guess you would call it a movie. It's called Cover 21, Ignite Chicago. And it's about what's happening right now with all the musicians that are out of work, dealing with COVID-19. Anyway,
Okay.
the artist's name is Marty Casey. His band was called the Love Hammers, and they're fabulous, by the way. So I'm tracking over here, doing a little movie. I got Key Grip Dolly, cinematographer, everybody in the other room, and I'm here in one of the rooms that's blocked off, so it's quiet, so I can talk to you. But I appreciate you reaching out to me. It's always good to talk about myself.
Absolutely. You know, you're the first person I'll come to when I have that mindset.
Appreciate it. I know we crossed paths with a lot of the same friends. I think that's nice.
Absolutely. And we had a good time hanging out down at the Christmas Expo this past December. That was a hell of a lot of fun. I think I might have had more fun just hanging out with everybody and being around other people than I did actually playing that day.
No, it was great, Brendan, because come on, we're sitting in the room, we're hanging out with the guys from Ace Frehley's band. Rick Derringer's in the room with us, telling us old stories about him writing songs and playing on Kiss records. You can't go wrong when you're around those kind of guys that have left an indelible mark with me as a musician, that's for sure. But we all have the same common denominator. It's go out and play shows and record songs and make records. And that's really nice because we don't get a chance to cross paths very often. But when we do, we make the most of it.
Absolutely. I was telling somebody the other day, one of my favorite instances from Christmas was there was at one point that Saturday night where nothing was really happening at the moment, but it was just me, you, Garrett, the drummer that was playing with me that day, and Rick Derringer sitting there watching his wife make his dog dance when she was holding the treat up in the air and it was just twirling around on his back feet for like an entire minute. I was like, you know, it's one of those instances where you just kind of sit back and you're like, I'm sitting on a bus watching Rick Derringer's dog dance right now. So
and no, it was a lot of fun. And he loves animals, and anybody that loves dogs and kitty cats I'm a friend of. Okay, so wonderful guy, 74 years old, still playing. And that might be the template, that Christmas gig might be the template for any naysayers out there going, well, why are you playing live shows? Everybody got finger pricked at the shows. You put it in the machine within 3 to 5 minutes, they let you know if you're okay. And then you're allowed into the venue to play a show. A fabulous template to maybe perhaps what we're going to be looking at the future until everybody gets vaccines.
Of course, yeah, and I felt totally comfortable the entire time I was there. I have to give a hats off to Neil and those guys for putting that together because, you know, as far as the precautions they took, they went to great lengths to make sure everybody was comfortable.
Yeah, Neil and his team were fabulous. Great sound guy, great lighting. It's a terrific team. I didn't have to even bring a bass out there. I used Gene Simmons' old bass, his old grabber bass on the show, which is nice. First time playing a show with Enuff Z'Nuff, over 3,000 gigs. And I didn't have to use my own bass guitar for once. That was kind of nice. And I got footage of the show, and it's absolutely fabulous. It looked great. It sounded great. And that night I had Jeremy from Ace's band playing guitar with us. I thought that was extra special as well because he's fabulous.
Yeah, and he's a huge Enuff Z'Nuff fan as well. So it was cool to see him play with you guys, of course.
Right on, bro.
Yeah, it was a great gig, of course, and we all had a good time. So very cool, man. I want to move forward and jump into the reason I brought you on here tonight. You guys just had some reissues come out on Cleopatra. So fill everybody in on what just came out with those guys, if you don't care.
Absolutely. Donnie and myself signed a deal with Cleopatra Records and Brian Pereira and his fabulous team to put out the whole catalog, every single record on vinyl, which is the first for me. I know the first two records, the debut with Fly Michelle, a New Thing, and the Strength album were both produced and released years and years ago on vinyl, but then it was stopped production for one reason or
They're
another.
super
And
rare to
everybody was,
find nowadays
yeah,
as
and all the
well.
record companies, they were focusing on selling what was important at the time, which was CDs. And I get it. But now I found a record label that believes in analog, putting out those killer recordings. Having the vinyl is so special. It's a little bulky if you're going to be on tour, but if you're out at home, anybody out there, it's a music fan that listens to vinyl and they love the sound of analog. It's a great thing for us. As a feather in our cap. We're totally psyched about it. We just released the first one, which was Dissonance, and that features Jake E. Lee playing with us, which is another story right there, because that guy is just absolutely magnificent on guitar. Great sense of balance. Then the second one just came out recently, and that was our Peach Fuzz record, which was theoretically our second album we put out, but it was the second one we did, but we didn't put it out for a while. We held back, and it was all like B-sides of early unreleased tracks from the first two records, and that was real nice to release that. And now they're getting ready to put out, if I'm not mistaken, the box set next, which will be 40 unreleased Enuff Z'Nuff songs. Donnie and I by ourselves, me playing drums, one microphone, both playing together at the same time, how recording should be. No tapes, no sequencers, really the embryo stages of the early Enuff Z'Nuff songs that were never released, because we felt, well, we can beat that. Those were early tunes. And we said, we know we have more to say with the new songs we're writing, and those slipped through the cracks all the way until now, where Cleopatra and Brian Pereira came to me and said, Chip, I want to put that record out with unreleased songs. Do you have anything? I go, as a matter of fact, I got 40 songs right here that we recorded on a 4-track and an 8-track over my apartment in Blue Island and over at my place in Beverly and Longwood Drive, along with my friend Mark McNulty's grandma and grandma's basement. And we put it all together. Went over here to the studios with Chris Steinman, and he actually mixed it all up for us. And I think it's a real nice potpourri of early Enuff Z'Nuff before nobody knew anything about what we were doing and what we were all about. And it really just shows all the scars and the tattoos of what we carried in the early days. Very organic sounding record. And I think that under a black light, it'll shine really nice.
Absolutely. Are you a big vinyl collector yourself?
Yeah, I do have a lot of vinyl. I have a lot of old vinyl my father gave me, from Woodstock, early Black Sabbath records, Rare Earth, Captain Beyond, bands that some bands big, some bands not as commercially successful, but all fabulous records. The Joan Baez records, old Led Zeppelin, every Beatle record, and of course Stevie Wonder stuff, because I'm a big Stevie Wonder fan as well, and Smokey Robinson. There's just it's a potpourri of great songs that are timeless in my eyes. And it's all the way through A to Z in the alphabet of just great songs and wonderful artists. Probably have maybe 300-400 records, but I had a lot more at one time. And I didn't know records were going to come back, and people were asking me for stuff. And I turned a lot of friends and family on a lot of the vinyl I had, but I still have quite a good collection right now to share with anybody that wants to hear them.
That's awesome. So you just mentioned that there's 40 unreleased songs coming out. So these are 40 songs that feature you and Donnie that are from back in the day?
Yep, that's it. Simply put, we sat in a room. Some of the stuff we did when I lived in at 2231 Prairie Street in Blue Island. We got together. We had a little apartment. It had no electricity, so we ran an extension cord out into the hallway. When the electricity came on, we were able to record.
Oh,
And
wow.
turn the TV on as well. We had no refrigeration, so I had a little ice box that I would just throw ice cubes in there, and then we put all our loudmouth soup and whatever else we needed to survive. The telephone didn't work, but Donnie climbed up the telephone pole and got the electricity working for us, where we had some telephone. Anytime we picked up the phone, if somebody else was on, we would just hang up immediately. We were doing everything really the old-fashioned way. It was obviously those were tough times for us, but it made us stronger as a band. And we did those records quite frankly, we did them very cheap. There was no cost whatsoever. It was just us spending our time in the studio, sequestered, singing, playing, doing all the harmonies on a couple of tracks, bouncing tracks over, one guitar part, one bass part, maybe a lead guitar over the vocals when we stopped singing. And then of course an old Elisa's drum machine that Donnie and I programmed the beats in. And that's pretty much how the record went. And there's a bunch of stuff on there where I'm playing electronic drums as well. I got acoustic drums when we went over to different facilities to record the songs. And basically it was Donnie and I singing at one time. It was one take, no punch-ins, no nothing. So you hear it and you go, wow, that guy's got some extraordinary talent. He's really a wonderful singer. And the harmonies, everything's worked out really well. And, obviously there's blemishes on the record, but at the end of the day, that's the beauty of it. It's transparent. It's real.
Absolutely. Very cool. So I want to fast forward a little bit or rewind, whichever you want to call it, and talk about the record Dissonance that just came out. As you can see, I picked up the green vinyl behind me. It looks awesome. It sounds great. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the making of this record. So this was the first time Donnie had been back into the mix in a while, if I'm correct. So when you guys went into the studio for this, was the initial idea to get an entire album done, or were you guys just kind of going in there to see what you guys were working on at the time, to see what you could get done?
We just got together, and it's always been, let's make a great record. That's it. At the end of the day, let's do something that's significant, that's going to trip our trigger, and perhaps the fans might dig it as well. And Donnie goes, bring down your stuff and I'll bring down my stuff, and then we'll work together on some material. So our management company at the time, a guy named Ryan Johnson, put us in a home in Las Vegas. He was buying all kinds of property out in Vegas at the time when it was really booming. And he says, I'm going to put you guys in a big mansion with a pool table and 3 floors. And you guys are just going to sit in there and write songs until we get the 10 that we're going to need. And then we'll go into the studio and record them. And we had a wonderful producer that wanted to help us. We were going to produce the record ourselves. We brought another guy in as well because he was a great drummer. His name was Vinny Castaldo. And he says, come on over to my establishment. We'll record the whole record there. So we pulled songs off a small little tape machine that we had. It was like those baby cassettes, those mini cassettes. We went through 10 hours of mini cassettes, Donnie and I, in management, listening to all the songs. And then we picked the 10 we would found. We found a lot of older stuff like High on the record, along with Chicago. And we said, yeah, we got to put these on the record for sure. And then Donnie had new stuff and I did as well. And we just worked together, putting those songs on vinyl, where we thought, we found ourselves in a predicament. We had no dough at the time. We had management that was helping us. We had a place to stay, but we knew it was going to cost us at the end of the day. We really wanted to be sufficient and try to do it within the times and the means that we held at that moment, which was, we had a month to make the record. And there's only 24 hours in a day, and we're probably going to record about 8 to 10 hours in the studio. So let's make sure that when we move forward here, that we're not confusing motion with progress. And Donnie wasn't in good shape then. I was happy to be back in the good graces of him doing another record. We had no idea where it was going to go, except that we had some strong songs and we were going to record them and get it down as quickly as possible. And that's where Jakey Lee came in. We toured with Jakey Lee years ago when he was in Badlands. We were their support act back in 1989, 1990, and every show was packed. So much action out there. We had New Thing on MTV on radio, and they were just coming out with their stuff, but they had bigger names because you had members of Kiss in the band and Ozzy Osbourne. So they had a little more juice, and they were the veterans. I learned a lot from them, but we developed a good relationship on that tour. And then it ended. And then 20 years later, our producer mentioned to me, he says, hey, I got a guy who'd like to come down and play a song on the record. I go, who's that? He says, Jakey Lee. I go, oh, we're big fans of his. Yeah, he told him to come on down. We'd love him to play. We had no money to give him. But yeah, if he wants to come down and play a track, let's do it. And he came down, played on one song, and then he said to Donnie and I, guys, I could listen to you guys sing and play all day. And we thought, that's really cool. I go, you want to play on some more stuff? We'd be honored. We don't have any dough to pay you, but we'll give you a point on the record. And he says, that'd be fine. And he came down every single day with his little, his SG guitar and a big bottle of Jim Beam. We told stories, had a wonderful time in there, the old Ozzy stories, all those songs that he wrote, fascinating songs, great guitar, very melodic. And him and Ozzy had a good chemistry together, obviously. And when it all went to its wayside, he said, I want to go to put the solo band together. But he was taking time to really find the right musicians to put his next project together, which is going to be his new band. And in the meantime, we were just like we're a perfect holdover for him. Come on out there, play with us. It's a different kind of a band. We're a rock band, but we're a pop band at the end of the day as well. It's not metal, but we want you to do whatever you want to do and no handcuffs. And when he plugged in that SG, I'm telling you, I was watching his fingers and it looked like he wasn't even playing. And yet it was coming out of the speakers like, Jakey Lee, just fabulous, great sense of balance on guitar, a wonderful timbre. And, he was there for maybe a week. He played on 10 songs on the record. And then I didn't see him after that until about maybe 3 weeks right when we're getting ready to finish the album, he came on by and he had a broken foot. And he had a cast on. I go, "Oh, bro, what happened to you?" And he says, "I was chasing the ice cream truck and I tripped over the curb and broke my ankle." It's unbelievable. What a rock star move right there. But
That's
anyway,
crazy.
he listened to the tracks. He loved it. And I ended up doing another project with him as well. This chick named Sarah. I played on her record too. And I played with the guy from Wings too, Denny Lane. I played on an EP of his as well. So a lot of work came out of that studio, a lot of fun. And when the record was finished, nobody knew what we were going to do with it. We couldn't find a home. North America, we certainly weren't the flavor of the month. Donnie was not even in the band at the time. He was married and doing some other stuff. And myself, I was out as a 3-piece with Enuff Z'Nuff. And I said to him, I thought, well, I might have a friend that's interested in this album. And mind you, we were, 30 grand in the hole after we finished the album. And I went to his friend of mine. His name is John Lappin, and he worked for labels around the country. He would do licensing deals. And he took the record over to Japan, and King Records loved it. And they came back to us and said, "Yeah, we want to do a deal with you guys. We got 30 grand, exactly what we owed for the record." So they paid us the money, and then I gave it to management. I cut the deal. I gave the check to the management company, and then the management company kept all the money. Donnie and I made $1,000 a piece to make that record. And I think that ruffled Donnie's beautiful peacock feathers because he thought we should have got a lot more, which rightly so. We probably should have been compensated for it, but we had to pay our constituents first. If it wasn't for management and the studio being kind enough to take a chance on us, we wouldn't have had that. We wouldn't have had that opportunity. So I think we made the most of it. The record did good. Never got a deal until last year when Brian Pereira from Cleopatra Records approached me and said, "Hey, I want to put out all your stuff, Chip. I love you. I love the band. Let's do something." And Donnie and I talked. We got together. I ended up playing on his solo record. I shot the video for the first single, Party. And from there, Donnie said, "You know what? It's a go, man. Let's make it happen, brother." And we've had a lot of years together. There's no reason to hold a grudge. There's not a gun to our head. The fact of the matter is we both dig each other. We've made some great songs and great music. And now here's a wonderful opportunity to share that with everybody out there. The whole catalog of Enuff Z'Nuff records, starting with the Jakey Lee Dissonance album. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful present for me and for the band and for the fans. And I'm looking forward to, I want to hear what people have to say about it, because having Jakey Lee and Enuff Z'Nuff is pretty special.
Yeah, it's a fantastic sounding record. It's speaking of which, and while we've got the subject of Donnie up, when I had him on a few weeks ago, we were talking about this record, and Donnie said that this is his favorite Enuff Z'Nuff record. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a great record. It's not my favorite record by us because I like them all. They're all like our little children. Obviously, the first 2 records, we sold 1 million albums with those songs, and I'm proud of that. And the fans love those as well. But if I had to go through the catalog and look at all the Enuff Z'Nuff material, I couldn't really pick a favorite record. I love all of them. Welcome to Blue Island, underrated beyond belief. The Paraphernalia record that we put out with Billy Corrigan, Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick, and JY from Styx, that's untouchable. I remember when Spin Magazine did a big review on that album, giving it 9 out of 10 stars. And the journalist says, "This is another great Enuff Z'Nuff record with fabulous songs, but will it be enough to lift the black cloud that follows the band?" I thought, that fucking guy's got it right. He knew exactly what we were going through as a group. I like the newer records too. You listen, the stuff that I'm on right now, I'll never have my brother's pipes, but you could tell it's Enuff Z'Nuff, and it's every record shouldn't be the same. It should be like Led Zeppelin or Queen or a Foo Fighters record where they're different and they show another timbre of the band. And I think this record that we just put out, Brainwashed Generation, which Donnie's on that record as well, with Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater and Dax Nielsen from Cheap Trick. Those are great. I think it's a solid record.
It's a
So
great
for me to
record.
pick one record, to pick one record and say that's my favorite would be I'd be confusing motion with progress. They're all got record. All the records are strong. They all got something to lend to the fans and to ourselves. And I think all the songs are perhaps autobiographical in some way. A lot of songs are about everyday experiences that we as a band have went through, and perhaps so are the people listening to us.
That's awesome. One thing I wanted to ask you about on Dissonance as well is, man, some of my favorite bass lines that you put down are on this record. Specifically, I wanted to ask you about Fine Line. I love that just groovy bass line and that main riff in the intro. I want to ask you if you remember coming up with that bass line, who brought that song to the table, and just, the whole construction of that one.
I remember all of them, bro. I didn't just play bass. I play guitar on that record too. I sang all the harmonies with Donnie, or most of the harmonies, because Donnie's a fabulous singer as well. But us together, we have a pretty good timbre. When I was recording that song, I remember Donnie in my ear screaming, "Same old ship's enough. Yep, keep doing it." And he had a huge torch in his hand. He was lighting cigarettes with this huge big torch, and he was out of his mind. And I thought, that's pretty funny. And the engineer kept saying to him, "Donnie, please leave Chip alone. He's coming up with great stuff. Let him play."
That's
But
great.
I think that helped me. Actually. And all those songs on there, not that they're challenging, but I wanted to come up with really good bass parts that were reminiscent to all the influences that I held in the past, from John Deacon to, the great Paul McCartney and Tom Peterson from Cheap Trick. And I just listened to Buzz Burrow from Bad Company. Just listen to all of my favorite guys that I love from all the different bands. And that's where I come from. You show me a guy without influences, and I'll show you a guy who hasn't written one note. So I went in there, I played, it was loosey goosey. Band was on fire, I thought, at the time, because the songs we were playing were all solid as a rock. And I had Jake Healy right with me. So anytime you got him plugged in, you can't go wrong. And I used the old 1963 Fender Precision bass. I plugged in directly, no amplification whatsoever, and just played. It was it felt like rubber bands on a piece of wood when I was playing, but he got me a great tone. And at the end of the day, he mixed it like a son of a gun, where the bass is nice and punchy and up front and powerful, well, along with those drums. And yeah, it's a solid record. It's not about that. But I still think we got good records to follow, my friend. Our catalog speaks for itself.
That's awesome. So do we have a timeline of when the actual box set is going to come out?
I think May of 2021.
Okay, very cool. So one last thing I want to ask you about the Dissonance record while we're on it is, you said that you guys were out in Las Vegas making this record. Do you have any memories that stick out from your time in Vegas, not necessarily even in the studio?
Sure, I do. Stephen Adler used to live out there, so I spent a lot of time with Stephen, hanging out there, rehearsing, doing it all stuff from the Adler's Appetite Band. Our focus and task at hand was to go out every single night and play nothing but Guns N' Roses, the first record, Appetite for Destruction. Those jag-offs from recording and playing those songs when they were 22, 23, and now here we are as grown men trying to reproduce that. That was a challenge. But yeah, going to all the restaurants was great. Dottie was out of control. I know that while we were doing that record, he got thrown out of 3 hotels.
Oh, wow.
And this is after we got thrown out of the mansion that our management company put us in the first place. So he was definitely living his life vicariously through all his favorite rock stars like old Alice Cooper and the bad boys of rock, because he couldn't stop getting in trouble. It was just a bad time there. But man, the guy was creative beyond belief. And to get through that record was a total miracle. That's maybe one of the reasons why he embraces that album so much. But most of the time in Vegas, it wasn't about playing around. It was actually going out and spending most of our time 10 to 12 hours a day in the recording studio making the record. I did go to a couple of shows. I seen the Who when they were out there. They were fabulous. I remember Pete Townsend playing through 2. What was it? He had Fender Bassman amplifiers. That's what he used on guitar with that Strat. He was absolutely incredible on guitar. It was really great sounding. And then the following week, my management company, who I had a ticket agency, says, "Hey, you want to go see Nine Inch Nail?" So I took one of the girls from the hotel with me. She was easy on the eyes, by the way. Boy, she wear her boots well. And I took her to the Nine Inch Nails show, and they were fabulous. Trent Reznor and the gang, just powerful mixes. And it was inspiring there. And at the end of the record, I went to go to that play. It was called The Beatles, Love.
Okay.
And it was a big theater production. And I went to the show and I seen Steven Tyler there. And we of course, we exchanged pleasantries. And I said, what are you doing in town? He says, I'm doing some recording. I said, that's what I'm doing too. I'd love you to have you come down to the studio and hear some of our stuff. He goes, Chip, I'd love to, but I'm not only going to be here for a day or so. I got to get a red eye out of here in a day. I probably wouldn't get time to do that, but let's take a picture together. And we took a couple of shots together. It was nice. I've always loved Aerosmith.
That's
I hail
awesome.
Tyler as quintessential singer of our generation. And so there was some really nice moments that happened during all the chaos that left an indelible mark with me. And I was happy to do a record in Vegas. First time. All the records I've done with Enuff Z'Nuff are usually either in Chicago, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, or Los Angeles, California at One on One or Music Grinder or one of those big studios. So it was nice to go to Vegas, record in a solid studio where a lot of contemporary artists were making records. And I think we nailed the challenge, which was putting out a great record in a certain amount of time. And I pat Donnie on the back for that one and the rest of the team, Jake Healy and Vinny Castaldo, because they did a fabulous job as well.
Yeah, it's a fantastic album. I'm a big fan of it. It looks great on the green vinyl, so I definitely recommend everybody going out and picking up a copy of that.
Yeah, how cool is that? Who would have guessed, Brandon, that after 30 years we'll be putting out all these Enuff Z'Nuff albums on vinyl?
I've got
really,
it right here.
I always wanted to have it on my collection.
So,
oh, it's beautiful, bro. It's nice. I don't even own one yet. I got to call Brian Pereira, Cleopatra. He's too busy signing all the bands right now. He's got no. I guess he evidently selective thinking. He forgot to send me one, but that's a beautiful record. I recommend anybody that's a big fan of Enuff Z'Nuff or Jake Healy, check it out because it really shows a different side of the band.
Absolutely. So I want to kind of segue into something. You just brought up the Beatles a second ago. Enuff Z'Nuff just announced today that you guys are playing a show in May at the Monsters of Rock Studios, I think, and you're doing an all Beatles set.
Yeah, well, it's a whole different band. Even though it's Enuff Z'Nuff playing, it's really not. We don't push it as that. We're calling that project Hard Rock Night.
Okay.
Check it out on our website, hardrocknight.com. And that's basically, it's the Beatles on steroids, okay? We just finished an album, so we're going to put a record out as well.
Okay.
But it's basically nothing but focusing on one of the greatest bands of all time. Wasn't for the Beatles, you wouldn't have any of these bands out there. They set the tone for everybody. And these songs, it's nice to not have to worry about any of the Enuff Z'Nuff material. I'm just focusing on the smash hits and wonderful songwriting of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and of course, George Harrison and Ringo Starr. That's a fabulous group that you just really can't go wrong with any of those songs. But picture the Beatles playing through Marshall amplifiers with distortion. Still the harmonies are there, powerful big drums. I think people will be pleasantly surprised when they hear this project. So on the March 27th on the Monsters of Rock live streaming show, you'll see Hard Rock Night performing an hour Beatles set for free. You tell me what you think of it, folks, because we're going to be out, I'm sure, sometime in the future, playing these songs around the country. Maybe we'll do some residency gigs like Steven Tyler has done with Aerosmith. When you get in the room, or Cheap Trick did it, they did the whole Sgt. Pepper thing there too as well, where you're in a venue for a couple of weeks. It's much easier to do it right now until we can figure out how we can get back out on a tour bus or on the Oscar Mayer Wiener wagon and go out and play shows. So I'm excited about what the future holds. I think Larry Moran's been terrific to the band. Hopefully this will put us on the Monster Rock Cruise in 2022. But for more than anything, a chance for people to hear these Beatles songs done on the verge of heavy metal. It is powerful, heavier than sin. Hard Rock Night. That's the project, but they called it Enuff Z'Nuff on there because it's basically I'm standing in the front there with my old comrade Tony Fennell, the former singer of Ultravox, who now sings in a band called One in Rome. He'll be next to me singing and playing these songs as well. Tori Stoffregen. I'm telling you, Stoffregen is one of the greatest guitar players around, underrated beyond belief. Plays slide guitar like George Harrison. He's just fabulous. And then I got Daniel Benjamin Hill playing drums as well. As a solid, rock solid band, I'm excited about what the future holds. Enuff Z'Nuff, Hard Rock Night, a lot of different things are happening. And I plan on sharing them all with you, brothers and sisters, in the upcoming months.
That's awesome. So you said you guys have recorded an album under that project name.
That's correct.
Well, that's great. So after this concert happens and you guys put some of this music out, I'll have to get you back on here and we'll talk about that a bunch.
Thanks, Brandon. I plan on doing all those festivals, any Beatle conventions, the residency gigs. People hail the Beatles. They sold 500 million records. I'm in for it all the way down. You know, I picked songs that Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters hails and Taylor Hawkins. I just went around and listened to my friends, Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick. Everybody that loves Beatles stuff, I asked what their favorite tunes are. They told me. I recorded them all with Tony Fennell, and now the record's ready to go.
That's awesome. And you can definitely hear the Beatles influence all over Enuff Z'Nuff. So I'm sure you guys will hold it true to the candle and you guys will do a very good job.
Listen, nobody sings those songs like, Donnie V. Him singing Lennon or McCartney stuff. He's got the timbre. He's got golden pipes, and he's had them since he's been a little kid. But he's passed them down to me, and he's got pipes. I have PVC. I'm going to give it the best. I'm going to give it the best I got, my friend. All the tunes that we recorded are all, tuned down to low D. It's heavy like Alice in Chains, powerful, but it's melodic beyond belief. And we're not staying away from the template that the Beatles cast years ago, which is good performances, very melodic, melancholy, but with edge. So when you hear Helter Skelter, it's as heavy as it's going to be. When you hear something like Magical Mystery Tour, it's powerful as Cheap Trick. Okay, any of the songs that I've done, I've really thought about making sure the guitar, it was very guitar heavy, and I made sure the vocals were on top as well, so those stories can be told. And when people hear them, they go, "This could be the Beatles."
That's awesome. Well, I'm very much looking forward to hearing some stuff out of that camp.
Paul McCartney invented my job. If it wasn't for McCartney, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Absolutely.
He really did. I mean, there's so many bass players I love that I've mentioned earlier. But if you look at the big picture, all of us are influenced by something. And I always wear mine proudly on my sleeve. And it's an honor to record these Beatles songs and put them out there and play. And maybe one day Paul and Ringo will hear them and go, "Hey, you know what? We're going to endorse these guys because we're going to do a lot for charity as well. This is not just to pad our coffers. I want to help people out as well. We're going through some tough times. And if I can do anything to help people put a smile on their face, I'm going to help provide that service."
That's awesome.
Sometimes it's not about the money. It's about helping people out at the end of the day and showing some love.
Absolutely.
That's my reward.
Well, there you go. That's awesome, Chip. The one or two more things I wanted to ask you about before we got out of here. So I posted a clip earlier today on my Instagram whenever I was promoting this episode tonight of you guys on David Letterman in '93 when you guys were promoting the Animals with Human Intelligence record and you guys played Superstitious. I wanted to ask you about that performance and what it was like getting to play with Anton Fig. And I think somebody had also said that that's not the song that you originally were supposed to play that evening.
Well, we got called from Letterman's people, Morty, his old producer. And so we want to have Enuff Z'Nuff on the show again. We just did it a year earlier. We said, yeah, we'd love to come on there. And they had a different song they wanted us to do, Right by Your Side on it. And I didn't think that made sense. It was such a pop song, and it was a great one too as well. But we thought maybe we should do something a little heavier. Right then, at the time we were going out to play that on David Letterman, the grunge thing was happening. So you had Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, Mudhoney, all that heavy stuff, and Nirvana. And we thought, let's go and pick out something that's got a nice groove to it. It's heavy, big guitars, but still melodic and with a great storyline. And that was a song that was a throwaway for Donnie and I. We weren't even going to put it on the record until we gave it until our management presented to the label, and they loved it. They said, yeah, well, let's start the record off with this track. We had no idea. We just thought it was going to be a B-side. So when we went to Letterman, the first thing we did was we went downstairs into his little control. He's got a little quarters down there where everybody can smoke cigarettes and cigars. And it was in a boiler room, and we lit a joint up and we started smoking pot down there. And no one said one word. We were such bad boys. And Donnie didn't take any at first. He didn't smoke anything because he wanted to have pipes for the show. And then we got in there, and I noticed that they already had a bass player, And I thought, and he's a fabulous player, by the way, on Letterman. All those guys are great musicians. And he actually asked me, he says, Chip, oh, you got a 12-string bass there. He goes, how about if I play guitar with you guys? And I said, no problem. We'll do that. And we had one rehearsal, by the way. We just went through the song one time. And I know the keyboard player, he loved it. And
Paul
Anton
Schaefer
Fig,
was
Paul Schaefer was wonderful. And Anton Fig, solid as a rock on drums. So after we played the song one time, everybody goes, hey, I think we're pretty good. Let's track it and make sure it sounds good for going over on TV. We went in the other room, and it was a big SSL console in the back of David Letterman's place, and he played the rehearsal back for us. It sounded fabulous. We said, okay, let's do it. No problem. So we had two guitar players. We had Derek playing guitar, and then of course the rhythm guitar player, and then of course bass, keyboards, and drums. It was just a really rock solid band that Letterman has. And after the show, we went back down to the boiler room. We smoked a big joint. David had a cigarette. We had a joint. We chatted for a couple of minutes. He thanked us again 1,000 times for coming down and playing. He really loved the band. He's a big Midwest fan. He loves Beatles and loves Cheap Trick. And I remember going home, and the next day when the show came on, the guys in Cheap Trick called me and said, you know, we've been watching this show for years. That might have been one of the best rock performances live we've ever seen. No guys backstage, no sequencers, no tapes, no tracks at all. Just us five plugging in and playing. It was really beautiful, and it was a great performance. And I think it really left an indelible mark. But it certainly, at that time, there was a lot of bands that were dropping out of the sunset because of the fact that there was a whole new change of the guard with different bands that were coming out, like I mentioned before, all that Seattle scene. But we were able to succumb the beating that was ahead and be able to get through it and go on tour and support that record, following around Dee Snider's band. It wasn't Twisted Sister, but it was Dee Snider. And we did a bunch of dates with him. Then we went out and opened shows with Def Leppard. And then we did a club date where we were playing out, you know, maybe to 500 people a night. And people still loved the band. People were still, you know, excited about the record, but it just, that album sold about 250,000 units. It was considered a failure at that time. When if we did that in this day and age, I'd be on every single TV show right now. We'd be traveling around the country. Well, once everything was opening up, we'd be playing arenas, because those are pretty big sales and very respectable. But back then it wasn't. You sell 250,000 units back then, and for a band sold a couple of gold albums, so it's considered that, you know, we were considered the critics' darlings. In other words, lack of album sales. But at the end of the day, those performances really set the tone for Enuff Z'Nuff.
Yeah, that was a fantastic performance of Superstitious on Letterman that night. Did you have a more fun time playing the first time on Letterman when you did Baby Loves You, or that second time doing Superstitious?
I liked them both, Brandon. The first time with Letterman was exciting, you know, because the Letterman guy said to me, hey, Chip, if you want to play with us during the commercial breaks, you can. You get paid twice. So I thought, that'll be cool. I get paid a double salary for playing with the band during the commercials, and then playing with Enuff Z'Nuff on the performance. Plus I was singing too, so you can't go wrong there. None of the guys in the band knew that. They were a little bit a little cantankerous over me after that, because I got paid double the money. But no, it was great playing with Letterman's band. We were doing Beatles songs during the break. The fans loved it. No, I think it was killer first time. But the second time, I think it came off a lot better production wise. I think the band was on fire. And I believe that because of Letterman's band, they were absolutely smitten by this material we brought in there, and they loved playing on Superstitious. Anton Fig, what a great swing on him. Killer drummer, fantastic. I know Donnie produced the record for him after we did the Letterman performance.
Okay.
That guy really is a quintessential drummer, and you know, right up in the same league with Mike Portnoy. You know, two killer guys that can read charts and that can play any style of music there is. And so that was a lot of fun. And to this day, I still talk to those guys every once in a while. I see them out on shows, and they're still doing well. And we talk about their performance because Donnie V was his pipes were spot on that day.
Absolutely. It was a great performance. So tomorrow I've got a mutual friend, Mr. Ryan Roxy, coming on to hang out with me for a little while. I was wondering if you could shed some light on when you met Ryan Roxy for the first time and how you guys know each other.
Absolutely, Brennan. Ryan Roxy, before he was at Alice Cooper, he had a bunch of different bands, and he'd play all over New York, and just clubs. And we'd go to see his band. We were fans. We supported him. We'd go up and show up. I remember one night, Donnie went up with the band, and his bass player wouldn't let me come up and play. Uh, quite jealous of Chip Z'Nuff for some reason. We're very good friends, by the way. But at that time, Donnie would go up and he'd do Beatles songs with them. And Ryan Roxy, he's an old Cheap Trick fan. He loves the English stuff. I love his earlier bands as well. I think you'll have a great interview with him. Fabulous guitar player. I love him in Alice Cooper. He just really fits the bill well. He knows some old songs like the back of his hand. He's got his own podcast as well. And a lot of people follow him. I would consider him a real veteran. He's been out for a long time. You never count him out. That guy's a winner.
Absolutely. And anybody that's listening should definitely go check out the In the Trenches episode with Chip on there. It's that's quite the episode.
Yeah, he got me pretty good. He knew what questions to ask. And he tried to ruffle my feathers, but at the end of the day, we had a wonderful time hanging out together. And then we ended up doing recording. We recorded an old Radiohead song, Creep, a couple months ago. And we put that one out there as well on YouTube. And I think it's great. I love the way he plays guitar. And I think the track, if you get a chance to hear it, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
I'll have to go check that out. That's probably what I'll do as soon as we get off of here.
Yeah, ask Ryan about it. He'll tell you all about the track. He's going under a different name, but quite a few people were smitten
That's awesome.
doing a heavy metal version of Radiohead's Creep.
That's great.
You can't go wrong.
You
You can't really hurt that song because it's a very well written piece of material right there.
Absolutely.
But we all got together and recorded on it, and I hope he does some more stuff because I do like playing with him.
That's great. One last thing I wanted to ask you about before we got out of here. Are there any current plans to record any new Enuff Z'Nuff material right now?
Absolutely. I'm in the midst right now of doing a solo record. So after I get done with that, maybe I'll get together with Donnie because we talked about writing some more songs for the next record. And he's always got fabulous material. So I got a bunch of songs as well. We'll see what happens there. I'd like to get a song or two of his on the new Enuff Z'Nuff album, but right now I'm focusing in on my solo record and Hard Rock Night, the new project with Tony Fennell, Tori Stoff Reagan, and Daniel Benjamin Hill. And then I got some other projects I'm doing as well with some other bands that I'll tell you about when it comes to fruition. But my plate's full right now. I know we're going through some tough times out there. By the way, I want to give a shout out to all our first responders, our nurses, doctors, military, surgeons, police, firemen, all the people that keep us safe every single day. You can't say enough about these guys. God bless you, cats, for helping us all out. Absolutely. And hopefully within time, we'll get through this shutdown, and we'll be able to all get back on the horse again and start riding around the country, playing these festivals and concerts through North America and over in Europe and in the UK. I see stuff's opening up right now, so let's keep our fingers crossed. Be respectful to each other. I don't have a mask on now because I'm talking to you, but guess what? That's no one in the room with me. I'm by myself. But I'm respectful everywhere I go to. And when I sing the songs, I'm not wearing a mask. None of us singers can, because you can't perform like that. But when I'm around everybody else, I'm really, really looking out for everyone. I don't want to see anybody going through any debilitating issues. I say prayers for everybody out there. May the best thing that happens to us last year be the worst thing that happens to us this year.
Absolutely. Well, Chip,
I look pretty good in camera right now.
Chip, you always look good. Come on, man.
I got the John Lennon hat on, the Elton John shades.
Yeah, Chip.
My dude's looking pretty good right now.
Your look's never in question. Come on, we don't even.
So yeah, I'm okay. I look like a version of my father, who's very handsome, by the way.
Well, there you go.
Brandon, thanks for talking to me. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to let me spout some fodder on what Enuff Z'Nuff is doing. For all the fans that are out there right now, God bless you all. We're going to get through this together. Shows are going to happen again. It's going to be a big celebration of life, and you're all invited.
Absolutely. Well, there you go. Chip, me and you'll be able to say goodbye off air, but I thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Like I said, I will be back here tomorrow with Mr. Ryan and Roxy, so I can't wait to see you guys. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. God bless you guys, man. Give Ryan my love.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chip.
Cheers.